Show of hands, how many people watched my hour and 20-minute long channel killer video? Yeah, okay, I know. It wasn't intended for everybody, but for those few people who were really interested in learning SketchUp, I think it's a good, valuable resource. And I know in the future when people ask me how do I get started in SketchUp, at least I'll be able to refer them to that video. And if you are interested in designing your own woodworking projects, you know, just carve out a couple of hours where you can sit with that video alongside of SketchUp and just follow along. I really think that's the best way to learn SketchUp, is just make a project, you know, following along somebody who has already done the project. At least that's the way I learned SketchUp. Catching up on some stuff. What is this? It says it's a resolution target, and then it's got this thing on the other side. And somebody sent this to me. It came from Guru Enterprises. I don't know what it is. I didn't order it or anything. In fact, there was postage due on the package. So I had to pay to get something that I didn't order, and there was no note, so it was just bizarre. But that wasn't the first time I got something in the mail and there was no note attached to it, but I can usually figure out what it is because it has something to do with woodworking. It's usually a smaller company who's trying to promote their product, and they figure out if they just send me something, I'll like make some big promotional announcement or something on my channel, and it doesn't work like that. But in this case, this isn't even remotely related to woodworking. It's a photography thing. So I guess maybe they're telling me that my camera isn't in focus often enough. Here, focus. All right, I've got my cut list here. I am ready to start making a drill press stand. I got a sheet of plywood out here, so that means I can break that down. Always my favorite part of any project. I think I'll just draw a line and just make a freehand cut all the way down. I'll clean up that cut on my table saw. One thing I like to do is I usually like to identify the square corners with the factory cut edges of the plywood. So I know those are square, and usually I can tell pretty easily, but you know, if I did a pretty good job cutting that, sometimes it can be pretty difficult. So these are the four pieces that I can cut down to their exact size to start with. The top and the base and then the two sides. The dividers in the middle, I want to wait so I can get an accurate measurement on those once I get all of the dados and rabbets cut on these. You might remember when I mentioned that a lot of times once I design a project, it changes once I actually start building it in the shop. And here's something that's cropped up really early, and I probably should have thought about this before while I was designing this. As I got to thinking about the cutting order, let me show you what this would look like. So here's I've already cut the top and the bottom and then the two sides, but I can't really cut that, you know, get a completely accurate measurement on this center divider until I place this upper divider in here. So I would have to cut that first and then cut out this dado in this top shelf and then the dado in the lower shelf. Then I could cut this piece and drop it in there, and then I would have to cut the dados side to side. And basically that would mean switching my saw around a lot from dado blades back to the regular blades to making a cut, and I'd rather avoid that if I could. And so really what I was thinking about doing now is, instead of having this long drawer on top, why don't I just extend this center divider all the way to the top, so it would be just a series of drawers down this side and then another small drawer on this left side. And I think that will be a lot easier to cut those dados and assemble them that way. And this is what it looks like with the drawers in that arrangement. And then if you notice, I didn't put the drawer over on this side because, and now that I got to thinking about that, it means that I would have to cut this dado smaller, and then this shelf here and the shelf on this side would have to be a little bit smaller, and it just seems like a little bit extra hassle that I just don't really need to deal with. So I think what I'm going to do is just eliminate the drawer or anything on this side and just have this as a solid panel, and that'll give me more room to reach in there to grab the compressor anyway. So basically I just think it's better to simplify this. I'm way happier with this design. This is going to be a lot simpler. So now all three of these pieces will be the same size, except for the center one just needs to be a little bit shorter because of the rabbet that's going to hold it in the back, but I can cut all of those. The top and the bottom are also going to be exactly the same size and have the dado in the exact same spot. So that's going to simplify things. Plus, when I cut the dados in this panel and the dados in this panel, they'll all be identical and line up. And actually, I think eliminating that wide top drawer is probably a good idea because wide drawers tend to accumulate a lot of clutter unless you build some dividers in them. So this is actually a pretty good example of my design process. This happens all the time where I'll design something in SketchUp that looks really cool, and then once I bring it into the shop, it changes. There's rarely been a time when I've designed a project and I've built it and it's been exactly the same as that original design. I think it's easy to get carried away in SketchUp designing really cool things and kind of forget about how it's going to be assembled and the procedure and the order that you're going to assemble that project in. And those are all kind of things that just come with experience and building. This also illustrates a lesson. If you're going to purchase plans from somebody, make sure that they've actually built that project in the real world. Well, that took a lot more time than I was planning on today. I thought I would get a lot further than this today, but you know, this happens. And it took a lot longer to kind of not just redesign it, but kind of just think it through. And sometimes that's the most lengthy part of a project. But don't worry, I've got a good plan now, and tomorrow I'm moving forward. Okay, all I gotta do is cut some dados and rabbits and put this thing together, and I'll be done with it tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.